वागर्ताविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्तप्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् दोर्भिर्युक्ता चतुर्भिर्स्फटिकमणिमयीमक्षमालां दधाना हस्तेनेकैन पद्मं सितमपि च शुकं पुस्तकं चापरेण भासाकुन्देन्दुशङ्खस्फटिकमणिनिभा भासमाना समाना सा मे वाग्देवतेयं निवसतु वसने सर्वदा सुप्रसन्ना सदा शिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणी भगवती दशाध्यायिनी अम्ब त्वाम् अनुसन्ददामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी ॐ। So there are a few questions, many of them are interesting. So I will spend a little time on trying to answer these questions, and then we will go on to today's. The first question goes as follows. As per my, maybe I will take this because this is a better order. It is mentioned that change cannot be abruptly, cannot happen abruptly. I was mentioning that point yesterday. But it will be slow and stepwise. But Gautama Buddha or Valmiki changed themselves overnight. So this is a question. This is a very normal question that comes because for our unit of analysis we see only one Janma. These are all true only when you look at one Janma. We only know the last episode called Gautama Buddha. You don't know what happened before that. In fact, Ramana Maharshi did nothing worthwhile in this Janma. He went to the school. He was generally going to the school. One day he ran away from the school. That's all he did. But see the wisdom he brought out. Where from did it come? So, the answer to this question, the change has happened. Shatakoti Janmaha. That is what in Viveka Chudamani, he says you will get mukti after Shatakoti Janmaha. Shatakoti Janma is 10 power 10. Which means 1 followed by 10 zeros. That many Janmas. So I think this question is because we are thinking there is only one Janma in which we have to analyze. It is not true. The soul goes through Janma after Janma, some evolution, and what we see now is a small portion. So that is how I think we need to understand this. The second question is related to that. It says, as per my readings and knowledge, we are suffering or enjoying the results of our activities from past time. So this in a way explains part of it. Our past karmas has put us in situation and conditions we live in today. So in order to change the results of our karma, how can we change the situations of present which are governed by past karma? Is there any solution? It's a very interesting question. See, we have Sanchita karma, Prarabdha karma and Agami karma. See, the word Prarabdha means Pra-Arabdha. Arabdha is that which is begun, which is already begun. That's why it's called Prarabdha. Pra is Upasarga. Arabdha means which has started. So, The first job of a prarabdha karma is to manufacture a body. See, the soul, what it does is, imagine like this, there is a big tank. In the tank you have karma, that's called sanchita karma. All the karma cannot be exhausted in one go, because we have accumulated over long janmas. So what the soul will do, it will take a small set out of it. Let's say we carry a bag. Now the soul will ask, if I have to exhaust all these karma, I need a medium for it. So prarabdha karma manufactures this body. So all these bodies are manufactured by respective prarabdha karma. The soul has done it. And prarabdha karma will be undergone. Nobody can escape that rule. A Brahmajnani, like Ramana Maharishi, has to have sarcoma. He has to have cancer. Because you have come with a bag, that bag cannot be emptied. This Janma is actually taken only with the bag in hand. In other words, it is like an arrow which is left out of the bow. You cannot catch it anymore. It has to go to the destination. Or it is like a doll for which you have given the key and left it on the floor. Until the key is unwound, the doll will keep on moving. So all that we are going through in the Janma, we have no control. We have absolutely no control. We have to go through it. Adhike, we say, in common parlance, prarabdha karma, like that we say. Essentially, we meant what we said. We have brought the bag will be exhausted. But a person who knows what I am going through in this Janma will not affect my future Janma, but what position I take on matters that I am going through. See, there are two things. One is I go through something. Other is a position I take in that. If I take a position in which I will take my hands off, let bad things happen, I will think good, something like that, that means we are investing for a better future. It is an investment. So we should not worry about what we are going through. And if we get that wisdom, if we understand that broader principle, there is hope for changing. So the change will happen only like that. Which means we will stop worrying about what is happening. See, we spend a lot of our time worrying about what is happening. Why should you worry? Because this has been, when you are let inside the world, all this is a package deal. So we should not worry about what pluses and minuses I am going through. But we should say, I align my thoughts and my feelings in such a way that my future can be better. So that is how this change will happen. And all these are told, you ask anything, it is available in Bhagavad Gita. I want to tell 2 shlokas, which will explain this. They are all available in chapter 9. In fact, 1 shloka in chapter 6, because Arjuna asked the same question. Some 38 shloka or something in chapter 6. Arjuna asked, Krishna, you are telling all these yoga, and all that, I will take faith in you. I will do. But by the time I die, I am neither here nor there. Is it not waste? At least I could have enjoyed life. This question he is asking. I took faith in you and then I kept on doing. I don't see anything happening. One day I died. At least I could have enjoyed the life. Like that he asked. The closing 5 shlokas in chapter 6 are wonderfully explaining. Krishna beautifully explains. He puts a fundamental principle. We should all develop Shraddha in it. What he says? Na kaschit kalyana krit durgatim tata gacchati. Understand this fundamental principle. If you invest on something good, this is what financial planners are also saying. You invest on right instrument, you will get a better return. Like that Krishna said, Na kaschit kalyana krit. You did something good. That will never go waste. Durgatim tata na gacchati. So we should have that faith. So if you invest in good things, you don't have to see it before the end of this Janma. It is always in our credit balance. So this is one answer he gave. So if you have faith in it, we will know that this trajectory will change. Because we have faith in it. Second thing he said, it's 9th chapter. 9th chapter is nothing but, it's nothing but pouring bhakti. Ultimate bhakti is only 9th chapter. So you see this shloka he says, Apichesu duracharaha bhajate mam ananyabha sadureva samantavyaha samyak vyavasito stitaha. However bad a person is, the day he decided to invest good things, he says, sadhu eva samantave. I consider him to be a sadhu. Why? Samyak vyavasito stitah. He has invested correctly in his life. So these are indications to show there is no point in worrying about the past. And what we are going through is because of something which we have already drawn. So let us not worry what I am going through in this life. If I have to, fall a little bit and fracture my hand, let me do it. If I have to go through some other sukha and dukkha and samsara, let me go through it, because these are all what I have already brought. Develop that, grace of life in which you say, of course we will be emotional. I think, we all have emotions. But we cannot be emotional too long. God has also given us that, kind of a thing. That little wisdom is what we will get through this satsanga. Then we will have courage to say, we will go on. This will take me through. So I think these questions are all related to that. There is another observation. It's not a question, but it's a nice observation. I have observed. She says, most of the housewives are karma yogis. This lady talked to me yesterday about this at the end of the class. She said most of the housewives are karma yogis and they do the work for the upliftment of their families. The thing is, they have no knowledge about Bhagavad Gita or Veda or any spiritually related granthas or whatever it may be. I 100% agree with her. And we don't have to know Bhagavad Gita because Bhagavad Gita is not at all teaching rocket science. It is teaching intuitively what is right. If you can get it in any other ways, so we don't have to necessarily know Bhagavad Gita. If we have the benefit of understanding it, sometimes it makes it little easier. I entirely agree with her. I think the greatest thing that happens in this country, the current generation I do not know, but certainly the greatest thing that is happening is the institution called family is only because of this housewife. They are true karma yogis. They are the nearest karma yogis I can think of. I have no doubt in my mind. It's a pure love without any what is in it for me. I keep giving these examples. In the future shlokas, I was anyway planning to give this example. So she has already jump-started it. There are two questions. They are again interesting. How do we know that the karma, within bracket work, that I am doing is right? Many a times we end up taking up work without realizing that it is naturally aligned with me, and how do you correct it during the course of realization? Very, very important question. My students keep asking these questions anyway. When I teach them Prakriti or nature, you have to do things according to your nature, they ask this question. It is true that most of India becomes software engineer now. So it cannot be that Prakriti. Because Prakriti is not, the RGB is not all blue color. There are millions of colors. This country believes, let 1,000 flowers blossom. That is what this country believes. So the question is, how do we do it? I think the best thing is to do it is to first realize that each one of us have our own inherent nature. We have to be alert to this possibility. Many are not even alert to this possibility. Step one is to be alert to the possibility that I have an inherent nature. Moment we are a little alert to the possibility, our thinking mind will actually start finding out what is my nature when it comes to work. There are certain things when we do, our heart is very cool, as though there is an air conditioner running. We feel very happy. It's very important to watch. It is very important to be self-reflective in life. We can make mid-course correction. It doesn't mean leave the job. It doesn't mean resign the job. It means align what I do with the job and also do something else. In fact, I know one of my relative, in their house, they make even bigger than this photo size. I think it is about 12 feet by 7 feet or 8 feet kind of photos. So they make it for all Swami, big, Sharada, like that they were making. Every time they are keeping it, we will go and see it. One day we asked, who is doing it? They said, this person is a software engineer in Infosys. Traditionally they were doing it. So what he is doing is, after his job, he comes here and works for 3 hours a day and goes. So nice to see it. Sakshat Sharada. I mean, it's a very complex, he etches first something in a glass and then develops it, something like that. What is happening? He has discovered his nature. Each one of us have nature, so we can do that. Then the job that we do will be fulfilling. So we have to explore it. We have to search it. We have to think about it. A few years we will find it. I don't think we will miss the point. We have to become alert to this possibility. For example, we love to help others, so we will do social service. That satisfies me. I will do my work, but I will do my social service. I feel satisfied at the end of the day. Work satisfaction will come only like that. The other question, in one of the chapter, Krishna says that He is all, He is everything. Why did He not create the world with perfect balance or only goodness? He should have introduced the idea of, He should not have introduced the idea of negatives, and why did He not do that? Krishna never introduced the idea of negatives, we introduced. I will explain. These are all common doubts people have. Please understand, in God's creation, Sakala Jiva Rashigalu, Jata Shakti, Chit Shakti. In this Chit Shakti, which is all intelligent beings, in this Sakala Jiva Rashi, there is only one creature which was endowed with thinking power. Power to think. That is called human being. So why I am saying this is, in the evolution, up to you become a human being, you don't have karmas. The dog does not have a karma, the lion does not have a karma. How do you understand it? Because if the lion and the deer are side by side, the lion will not hunt the deer. Saying, oh, it may not be available tomorrow, so let me hunt it and put it in the fridge. That thinking only human being can do. If a lion hunts a deer, it is Prakriti, it is hungry, therefore it will hunt. At other times they work in perfect harmony. So the power of thinking is not available to any creature other than human being. Now when the power of thinking is given to you, the results are also you are responsible. I did not say it. There is a 14th sloka in chapter 5 in Bhagavad Gita. It is available in Bhagavad Gita. Na kartritvam na karmani. That's what Krishna starts. Srijati, na srijati prabhu. He says, I am not responsible. As you sow, you will reap. So the world was left out. You chose. You made a small beginning, it became an endless chain. That is the idea. So God will not create negatives. God left it. I mean, you leave a place, in half an hour we will create a mess out of it. It's like that. Because people have different views, they have different things, and finally we will mess it up. So the world of negatives was my creation, and I be responsible for it. In fact, this was a question Ramakrishna was asked. This was a question Vivekananda was asked. Once one boy asked Vivekananda, why is God so cruel? This bugger, this person poor, this person with diseases, all that. Vivekananda smiled at him and said, when the heavens open and pour, heavens will open and pour. It is pouring madly in Chennai. Anyway, that's a different story. But when heavens open and pour, Vivekananda said, there may be two grounds. One well prepared, one left out as barren. In the well prepared, you will get cash crops, paddy, sugarcane. In the other barren ground, you will spend a fortune to clean it because it will be all weeds. He says, don't find fault with the rain. Ground must be prepared. If ground is not prepared, don't find fault with the rain. So we all have to prepare our ground. Kshetra. The Kshetrajna is coming. The Kshetra should be good. The Kshetra is not good, what can Kshetrajna do? So these are all our own creation. Anyway, very interesting questions. I think these are some of the common issues that we keep thinking about. There was one more question on WhatsApp. I will take it tomorrow because after today's class I want to take it. He has sent a question, but I will take it tomorrow. I read the question. Okay, so we'll continue. Yesterday we saw two important aspects of karma. Without doing work, we cannot evolve as an individual at all. Krishna laid that principle very clearly. Na karmana manarambat naishkarmaha purushaha nasnyate. Then he said there is no way we can abstain from work also. Na kaschik kshanam api jatu tishtatya karma karta. That's what he said. Because one is driven by prakriti jayi gunaihi. So these are the two principles which we said. And also towards the end we saw the definition of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga results in excellence, this is what Krishna says. And I introduced the notion of detached attachment. So this is where we stopped yesterday. So to me, Karma Yoga, the practical implementation of Karma Yoga is to develop an approach to work, whatever we work. It may be cooking, it may be doing some Devakarya, it could be working in office, it can be helping somebody. Let it be anything. We should develop what is called detached attachment. Now the question is, what is this detached attachment? It looks like oxymoron. It looks like a wrong things put together. First of all, we must be attached. Attached to what? Attached to work. This world requires us to work. This samaja requires us to do that. Our small ahuti in this grand yajna that is happening. Every one of us have to pour our ghee. So I think when it comes to work, we must be physically attached. When I say attached, detached attachment, the attachment is one of physical attachment and mental attachment to the extent of the work, to the extent of what the work requires, what the work entails, what the work demands from me as one Jiva Rashi who is part of this divine Leela called this complex universe in which I am in a position, in a situation, in a day, in a time. I am ordained to be there and supposed to do something. This thought must engulf us all the time. Everything that we do is a divine Leela. We can usurp in our own ways and say I am doing. I think we should keep saying it until we realize the larger picture. So when we have that view, work has to be done. Physically to be attached, mentally to be attached to the extent that the work demands a certain response in a very appropriate way. So that is the attachment. And what is the detachment? The detachment is we should be able to be emotionally detached from the outcomes. Not from the work, from the outcomes, from the results, from what it throws out back. Law of Newton's gravity will work. You do something, it will come back to you. Positive, negative, I do not know. All of us go through it. What you throw must come back to you. Krishna has said you cannot stop from throwing. You have to throw your ahuti. Something will come back. When it comes back, take it with prasada buddhi. This word prasada is such a wonderful word. A little bit of white dust is prasada. Little kumkum is called prasada. Child is called prasada. Seeing a good person is called the word prasada cannot be translated in English at all. Most of the words in Indian Samskriti cannot be translated in English. Tell me what is the translation for prasada? Not laddu or not chakra pongal, nothing. That's also prasada. Prasada is something the divinity remains, I am there. That's all. Good things are prasada, bad things are prasada. Please understand. Bad things that are happening to us, folded hands take it. That is called grace in life. That's the only prayer we must do to God. Let us not make a prayer, make this happen, let that happen, let my health happen. Don't ask that prayer. Pray to the God saying, you whatever you give me that free grace and wisdom to take it with folded hands. That is called prasada. If somebody develops prasada buddhi, they get detachment. They will take whatever comes. Take with folded hands. Because this is a very divine Leela. The world is so complex. Science cannot really science makes its own little progress for whatever small little things. But let us not usurp so much of prominence into science to the extent we throw everything out of the equation. That we should not do. I respect science, but I say science has a limit. Life is all about, going beyond and understanding there are things which we cannot even understand. We don't even have to make an attempt to understand, but have the grace to take. Life becomes a lot more interesting. Life becomes a lot more manageable. So that is the detached attachment. So if you ask what will happen if a person works with detached attachment, I found a nice shloka. So I just wanted to share that shloka. The shloka says, Udyoginam Purusha Simham Upaiti Lakshmihi Daivena Deyamiti Kapurusha Vadanti Daivam Nihatya Kuru Paurusham Atma Shaktya Yatne krite yedina siddhyati kotra doshaha. So he says, Udyoginam. Udyoginam is industrious, a person who is very industrious. Keep doing work. Udyoginam Purusham, Purusha Simham, this lion of this human being, Purusha is not masculine, don't worry. It may be a Pullinga word. Purusha is not at all masculine. Purusha is a human being. That is the meaning. Puri Ushati iti Purushaha. This Navadwara Puri, in which somebody is residing, that is called Purusha. There is a Navadwara Puri, 9-hold fortress, in which the soul is sitting. That is why it is called Purusha. So it is not masculine. So Purusha Simham Upaiti, a human being who is like a lion, says, I will be industrious, he will get Lakshmi. The propensity for him to get Lakshmi. Lakshmi is success. Whatever you mean by success. The propensity is very high. Daivena Deyamiti. Daivena means ordained. It's not Deva, but Adi Daiva, which is ordained. So things will happen because it is ordained. If you keep sitting, he says only Kapurusha Vadanti. These people who are all ill-informed, ignorant people only will talk like that. That's what it says. Kapurusha eva evam vadanti. Then he says, Daivam Nihatya, let whatever be ordained, that is going to happen anyway. Whatever is ordained is going to happen. Keep it aside. Daivam Nihatya, Kuru Paurusham, show your Purushatva, show your human beingness. That you are capable of whatever you are ordained to do. Do that, Atma Shaktya. Take that Vishwasa in yourself and then do. Because whatever is ordained to happen is going to happen. Don't worry about it. But you do what you think you can honestly put. Put your ahuti into this yajna called world. Yatne kriti. So that kind of an effort that is being done. Yedina siddhyati. Suppose what was ordained was against what I tried. Ko atra dosha. You don't worry. This is how a person will work if we had a detached attachment. This is the spirit of detached attachment. Whatever is ordained to happen will happen. Let it happen. Let me do what the situation demands. That is a very high level of thinking. That's high thinking. We need to evolve to do work like that. So Krishna is saying that is Karma Yoga. That is the spirit of detached attachment. Niyatam kuru karma tvam karma jyayo hya karmanaha Sharira yatra pichate na prasiddhayeda karmanaha. Then, see, this is a logical outcome of all the discussions. He said, without work you will never evolve. There is no state of no work. If you buy these two arguments, simple logic says work is better than no work. Because no work does not even exist. No work means procrastinating. Imagining I am not going to do work. Whereas Krishna has already said such a possibility does not even exist. But even if you think it exists, that is inferior to doing work. That is a conclusion you will get out of all these shlokas. So he is sort of trying to tell, if you go by all these arguments, you will come to this conclusion. What is he says? Niyatam karma kuru. I will talk about the niyatam karma a little bit. Niyatam karma kuru. Tvam. You please do. What is supposed to be done? What is supposed to be done, please do. So that's what he is saying. Why? Because karmaha jayaha hi akarmanaha. Hya karmanaha is the sandhi. Hi akarmanaha. So karmaha hi akarmanaha jayaha. Compared to akarma, karma is better. That's what he says. Then he gives a small example. Try not even attend to your body, you will get bedsore. Sharira yatra api te to maintain your body you have to minimum take bath, change the dress. If not take bath, at least put the scent and change the dress for a few days. Then you have to take bath one day anyway. So he says if you don't even attend to yourself, you can't even maintain your kamsikam, your body also you cannot maintain. He is only giving an example, not necessarily to drive the point, but as an example he is saying. He is saying Sharira yatra picha te na prasiddhayet akarmanaha. Na prasiddhayet akarmanaha. Without work, even you can't achieve maintaining yourself as a physical body. So So that is only an example that he gave. So the question is, what is this niyatam karma? He says, do your obligatory action. Now, this notion of karma in our karma kanda, as I told you, 80% is karma kanda. So there is elaborate discussions of various kinds there. So there are 5 types of karma which all of us can do. Can do. The question is whether we should do is a different question. I am now talking about the universe of what we can do. One is called nitya karma. Taking bath is a sort of a nitya karma. There are certain daily activities you are supposed to do. One of them I am going to talk in great detail called Panchamahayajnas. I will come to it. It's a nitya karma. I will come to it. This is the charm. This is the best part of this chapter. Today what we will go through today and tomorrow is the best part of the chapter. And the spirit of Karma Yoga lies there. The Shloka 8 to 20 is such a wonderful rendering of Karma Yoga. So anyway, so we have Nitya Karma, which we are all supposed to do. Then Naimittika Karma. There are certain things. If I have a daughter, I should get her married. If I have son and a daughter, I have to educate them up to a level and make them independent. If I have a father and if the father, Pithagarya, if you have to do, there are some Naimittika karma. Marriage has to be done. There are some societal requirements. There is a big flood, I have to, do whatever I can. Which means Naimittika karma does not happen in a predetermined cycle. It happens when situation is warrants. You should do it because dharma requires you should do it. It is good. If you do it, the society is sustainable. It is a very sustainable way of organizing this social system. So they are the Naimittika karmas. Then there are some called Nishkamya karmas. Because in Nitya and Naimittika karma, there could be, a reference of myself. There may be some what is in it for me. Even if I don't ask for it, it will accrue to me. By taking bath and keeping myself good, that benefit accrues to me only. And then in turn it can accrue. So in the first 2 categories, the benefit may accrue to me. But you can do a lot of karmas in which you can say the benefit need not accrue to me. The great social service that you trust are all doing are of that variety. It's very important for us because we will evolve. Doing certain types of acts which are good, which need not benefit me. Educating a poor child. Somebody is in grave danger, giving a help, you can in whatever way. In this country, you can do Shramadana, you can do Annadana, you can do, the varieties of dana. Can we, Shramadana, look at the notion of Shramadana. We come here to the temple and do a little bit of work, social service for 2 hours, great. So these are all Naishkarma. I am not asking what is the benefit I get. Rarely we ask, very rarely we ask, we don't ask. We feel good when we do such things also. So Naishkamya karmas, that's a 3rd variety. Then there is a 4th variety called Nisheda karmas. Vidhi and Nisheda, do's and don'ts. You can do, whether you do is a different question. I am talking about the universe of karmas. There are some Nisheda karmas. Things which we ought not to be doing, we will be doing. We may be lying, we may be inflicting pain and damage and something on somebody, we may be doing cheating, we may be doing it. Possible. These are all adharmic. And anything which is adharmic is unsustainable in the long run. Dharma means sustainable. Dharma is equal to sustainability. That's the most convincing answer I have found for myself. Within the ambit of sustainability, you will be able to fix a lot of conflicts that you see in dharma. Because sustainability is long run, in the long run, not today and tomorrow. That is the idea. So, Nisheda karmas. Sometimes inevitably, knowingly, unknowingly, all that could have happened. So, in order to sort it out, there is a 5th type of karma called Prayaschitta karma. So, these are the 5 types of karmas that we will do. So, here what he is talking about in Niyatam karma is the first 3 category only, which is Nitya karma, Naimitya karma and Naishkamya karma. I mean, if you unwittingly ended up in a Nisheda karma, then you have to do a counterpart called Prayaschitta karma. Prayaschitta, we will have to do because knowingly, unknowingly, wantonly, whatever. So the last 2 he didn't mean here. What he meant, Niyatam karma kuru, is as per the codified principles of dharma. You are supposed to do Nitya karma, Naimittika karma and Naishkamya karma, please do it. That is always good because not doing will only make you inferior. Will make you not really worthwhile kind of a personality. So that is what, Shloka 8 is sort of concluding the argument that karma is important and karma must be done from a perspective of karma yoga, and without karma you can't even maintain yourself, so there is no, so we have now come to a conclusion that as long as we breathe in this world, we will be in karma. We have to be in karma. And Krishna is telling us, if you do karma as per karma yoga, you will excel. So now the question is, can you tell me how to develop this attitude of karma yoga? So far it is fine. Can you tell me how to develop this attitude of karma yoga? I mean, conceptually I understand. What should I do from now? Half an hour from now we have to do something. Can you give me some tips? So the rest of the shlokas are all giving us certain things. We develop that kind of an attitude to work. The karma yoga will happen slowly. So that's where the next 12 shlokas are positioned in this chapter. We will see that. Yajñārtāt karmanōn yatra lokoyam karma bandhanah tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sanga samachara. He introduces a method of doing work. Yajñārtāt karma. Karma that you do, see, we said naima, nitya karma, naimitika karma and all that. Now he is saying, a karma, whatever karma you do, you should do for the sake of yajna. Yajñārtāt karma. And he made such a very powerful statement. Then what he says, lokaha anyatra, which means, there is, this elementary, for a fourth standard, they teach set theory. A, set A, set B, A complement, like that, the simple ideas. So what he is saying, set A is do work with spirit of yajna. Loko anyatra, A dash, all others other than it, A complement. Set theory, they use the word A and A set theory, A, anything other than A. Loko anyatra. What will happen? I am karma bandhana. The work will tie you. The work will chain you. It will shackle you. It will not unshackle you. You will not discover your degrees of freedom. You will be conditioned by work if you do work not with the spirit of yajna. If you do work with the spirit of yajna, it will not happen. Because first he said, Krishna says, do work with the spirit of yajna. At all other places, which means done without the spirit of yajna, you will be bound. Work will bind you. The greatest thing that can happen to us is we should discover joy and freedom in work. Particularly freedom. Work should not bother me. Work should not bother me. If work bothers me, work is not worthwhile. Because it puts all kinds of trouble in me. And slowly it will get me into some diseases also. If work bothers me so much, I am not going to be good. I am not going to be feeling good. And not feeling good will introduce a health problem for me later. I am not going to be good physically, mentally, whatever way you want. So Krishna says, the only way you will discover freedom from work, effects of work, the only way you will discover joy out of work is you have to do work from a spirit of yajna. He introduces a concept of yajna, which he has very detailed way he has described. He is only introducing the concept here. Tadartam, therefore, for that sake, tadartam karma kaunteya, hey kaunteya, do work therefore like this. Like what? Mukta sangaha. Sangha is attachment. Mukta is detachment. Being released from attachment. Samyak achara, samachara. Samachara, sam is a upasarga. Sam is a prefix. Sam means good. Achara means achara. So therefore you observe work so well. How so well? Get out of this, what is in it for me. Unfortunately, we work with what is in it for me. Your question is related to that. I will take it tomorrow a little bit. the way we have been trained, the way we have been living, the way we have been coached is what is in it for me. There is only one work I know in this whole world which is not what is in it for me. A mother attending to a child. That's why I have a great regard for housewives. A mother, if she started asking what is in it for me, society will collapse. Serious. The charm of the society is the mother is saying, when she attends to the child, she never said what is in it for me. Everywhere we said. That's why that work is divine. That work is fulfilling for the mother, for the lady. As that particular sentence was written, there may be absolutely no acknowledgement. I find naturally ladies have a greater tendency to evolve. Because it's wired into their habits. Nobody gives them a credit. Sometimes, so this amanitva and adambitva and all, they develop very well according to me. Because that is, in a way, we are when the moment stepped out of the house and went for a job, we were all told to work only for what is in it for me. Whereas Krishna is saying, Mukta Sangha Samachara. What is in it for me? Can you, one notch, keep a little away? Please, I want you to please go and reflect on this idea. There are occasions even in our life, even in our official life, there are occasions when we kept the what is in it for me temporarily out. Those are the best things we will remember and cherish. Not the ones in which we worked with what is in it for me. And that gives me a certain satisfaction which evaporates anyway. And it gives a lot of other things. This give one, take one free. The other part is very bad. It's all foul. It's all, all kinds of muck. So Krishna is saying here that if you have understood, if you can train your mind to do work by asking less and less of what is in it for me, there is a greater chance you will see joy of your work. People are wasting a lot of time arguing on this. The only way we can understand it is we have to dip into it. Please don't read what is swimming and swimming for years and years. You have to jump into the water. Don't read about sugar, thousands and thousands and thousands of pages, physical properties, chemical properties. Don't do it. Put a spoon of sugar on your mouth. You know what is sweetness. That is, sweetness is on paper. That's why Ramakrishna Paramahamsa says, you cannot write water in a paper and keep on squeezing. No water will come. Water will not come by writing water on a paper and keep on squeezing it. Yenu baralla. Undu choorallinda baralla. Water is not there, you have only written water. Swami Vivekananda, that's why he said maps are not territories. You can see a Wagah border on a map, go and see Wagah border. It's a very different experience. So in all these matters, please stop arguing. Lots of people argue. How is it possible? My question is, without trying, why are you arguing? Go and try for about 15 years and then come back, let us talk. Not once. Try for 10 years. Give up what is in it for me and try to do work, probably you will not come back. That's what Krishna is saying. So he introduced a concept called yajna. Yajnatat karma. Do karma for the sake of yajna, he says. So let us see what is this yajna. So actually if you do it like this, that detached attachment will happen. Active physical attachment will happen and emotional detachment will happen. And if it happens, Krishna says, work liberates you from the tyranny and boredom of work. We experience a great deal of that. Don't shy away, don't push the issue under the carpet. Please don't do that. You challenge it and ask, why is it happening? And if you have any faith in, Sri Bhagavan Krishna, you try it. Without trying, these things are not worth talking. It's like reading about sugar for thousands of pages and not even putting one spoon of sugar on my mouth. So I am a great expert on sugar, sweetness, but I don't know what sweetness is. But I will give you, lecture after lecture on sweetness. It's like that. So, look at what this Mundaka Upanishad says. Avidyayam bahuda vartamanaha vayam kritartaha iti abhimanyanti iti abhimanyanti balaha. These fellows are childish. Upanishad says these fellows are childish. He calls them as Balaha. And who are they? Avidyayam. They are ignorant first. They don't get the right framework. What gives me satisfaction in life? What gives me joy in work? That framework is missing. That's why it is avidya, not vidya. Avidyayam bahuda vartamanaha. All the time engaged in work with a wrong framework. Okay? Vayam, we all. No. Vartamanaha. And what do they say? Vayam kritartaha. We have achieved in our life. They come to a conclusion. Vayam kritartaha. We have achieved in our life. Iti abhimanyanti. They think like that. They think with a wrong framework they pursue life and engage in lot of activities, and they have this childishness to say also I have achieved everything in life. Vayam kritartaha. Then the Upanishad says they don't know what is happening. You know what is happening? Yat karminaha, such people, na pravedayanti, na vedayanti. With this to know. Vedayanti is those who have known. Pra is only a upasarga to make it prakrishtena. Pra means viseshataya, prakrishtena. One who has not understood this larger principle of life and this karma and all that, ragat, so out of attachment to what is in it for me, they keep doing work and they have a sense of satisfaction I have achieved in life. The Upanishad says, Tena aturaha, these wretched people, by that credit balance that they got, they will go and enjoy the credit balance, they will come back again. It says you have to come now, because you have not developed the escape velocity to go from this birth and death. This birth and death is like, you are in this chakra. You have to develop escape velocity to get out of it. With this framework, you will never get that ability to get out. He says, Kshina, when that effect gets lower, Kshina lokat. Kshina lokaha, once all your credit balance is over, Chyavante, they fall back. They come back again. So this is what will happen. In fact, there are very nice such, Eta andaha, nitamanaha, anyendaha. There is another shloka. It's like a blind, 60 blind people were led by another blind man. He said, I know how to take you. Come, I will take you. He is also blind. Like that kind of references are there in Mundaka Upanishad to say, where will ignorance lead us to? Okay, first let us understand yajna as a, moment you say yajna, we know what it is. There is a altar. This is all easily coming to our mind. So I will take that example first. We will see what is an yajna as a ritual, as a religious practice. Because that religious practice, because many people don't understand this. Lots of our religious practices are actually very symbolic. You have to do it, and by doing it, you have to reflect on why did they put all this. Today we said all these are not required and we have just pushed it aside. There's a lot of symbolism, there is a lot of deep meaning in many of the rituals. So I will take yajna. Because one Frenchman asked me, actually there were 9 Frenchmen came and then I did a program. Because my student who is the India head, he asked me, sir, can you do a program on Bhagavad Gita? I have some 10 Frenchmen. I said, I will do. First thing he said, sir, morning can you allow half an hour for them to ask any question? I said, let them ask any question. So it is actually, there is pharma company called, Millipore, Merck Millipore. So that head is my student. So they did a new factory. So they did some Homa, Havana, Aito. So the first question the Frenchman asked was, sir, why did you waste so much of ghee? Okay, many Indians ask this question. Sir, why did you pour so much of ghee into this fire? So I told him, I have a certain logic in which I am going to answer, you should agree to it. He asked. He said, for every question you will ask, I will ask another question. If you answer the question, I will answer the question. If you are not able to answer the question, you can ask another question, I will ask another question. We will go on like that. This is a tarka, na? It's like that. They said, okay. So I said, gentlemen, can you tell me, why do you take 1 kilogram of cake and slap it on my face? Happy birthday. Why do you take so much of cake? This is the fashion now. You take cake and then slap on somebody's face. That poor chap is a happy birthday boy or girl or something. I said, you please explain the amount of wastage that is going on there. They couldn't explain. I said, I have a better answer, but I am not going to give. I want you to first tell me Why are you wasting? Then I asked second question. Why do your ladies, which our ladies have also learned now, your ladies buy a 10,000 rupee sweater for tying it on the waist? So utter waste of money. They buy a costly sweater, tie it on the waist and go up and down. If you have a sweater, you should wear it if you are cold. Like that, half a dozen questions I asked. So they started smiling. Then I told, then I was, at the end I said, gentlemen, I want to tell you something. Societies need a lot of symbolism. I want to tell this because it has become fashion to throw all our rituals talking ill of it. In fact, I asked him another question. I asked him, if your political leader died in your country, where will you hang the flag? They said, we'll hang it somewhere in the middle. I said, why don't you hang it? Why don't you hang it upside down? I asked. And then I asked when this Wimbledon trophy is given by the Duchess of Duke and Duchess, why are they just bending a little bit and taking? Why don't they jump and take it? Like that, I kept on asking. Please ask this question because you Indians are asking these questions about Indians, about our rituals. I asked finally one question. My classmates in the 80s, when we graduated, these jokers went through a one-day program, how to keep the knife. If you keep the knife like this, the food is over. If you keep the knife like this, something is something. If you keep the knife like this, something, whatever. Table manners. I said it's the biggest nonsense. Why did you teach us for one full day? I asked like that. The point I am making, every society needs symbolism. Human beings need symbolism. Please understand. Because today we have given up Janmashtami. Instead of we do what is that called? Trick or trade. What is called that? Halloweens. So the fact remains we have to do something. But we don't want to do Janmashtami, we want to do Halloween. All these kids trick or trade and all that. So if there is no meaning in it, I see meaning in Janmashtami if you are able to see it. So Yajna is like that. So I have to do all these to come to Yajna. There is a lot of sukshma. There is a lot of thinking behind it. Don't underestimate our wisdom. Just because we are not understood, don't throw it in the dustbin. So we look at Yajna. Yajna has a karta, an Yajamana and Yajamana Patni. For any ritual, there is a karta. The karta need not have to do, you can give a power of attorney and the Purohit can do. But there is a karta. Okay? Yajna has a receiver called Devata. Yajna is done keeping one Devata as the deity for which we are doing Yajna. You do a Sudarshana Homa, then you know what is the deity. You do a Sri Sukta Homa, you know what is the deity. You do a Ganapati Homa, you know what is the deity. Whatever. Right? So there is a Devata for a Yajna. There is a medium in which you have to give. The medium is Agni. There is no other medium. The medium is Agni. So there is a medium. And there is a Vastu. And there are specific Vastus. If you do Sudarshana Homa, you have to give only Chakra Pongal, that sweet Pongal. If you do Ganapati Homa, there are 7 items which are to be mixed and then that only has to be given. Like that, if you do Sri Sukta Homa, you have to put lotus. So many lotuses are to be put. For everything has a certain thing. So there is a doer, there is a destination to which this is directed on, there is a medium through which you are giving and there is something that you are giving. This is what an Yajna is. But that is not the sukshma of the Yajna. If you carefully look at the Yajna, the Purohit who does the Yajna, he will say, Somaya idan namama. He will use the word namama, namama. The termination is namama, namama. Agnaye idan namama, Indraya idan namama, Somaya idan namama, Rudraya idan namama, Vishnave idan namama. Like that he will keep on telling mantras. There is one terminal called namama. The very central requirement for a yajna. From this yajna, I will go to a larger yajna now. I am now talking this yajna. The central, there are certain reasons and there are certain, framework with which yajna has to be done. And they are wired into the mantra, they are wired into what is happening to the yajna and all that. So, what is the benefit or what is the effect? I see 3 effects. First effect is, whatever you put in the yajna, it will become bhasma. It will lose all its name, form and shape. They put a silk saree, they put they may put a coconut with fully, we know. So many ahutis they are giving. See what happens at the end of all of that. Everything will become Advaita. It loses all its name, form and shape, and they have only common name called ash. You can take that ash and then apply it on your forehead as a prasada. That's also a prasada. So first of all, the effect is total annihilation, melting away of everything. So that ritual tells us that every work that you do and every work will melt away. Effects will melt away. Everything will go into total annihilation. You have to understand this. That is one tatparya of why that yajna is done. Second is the namama. Na mama, not mine, not mine, not mine, not mine. The day we are able to take our hands off, life will become a lot more manageable. Today we are not able to, pen we are not able to give, we take the cap and give the pen. Our sense of agency, our sense of entitlement and ownership has gone to such a level that we find sometimes, as in one pravachaka was saying, they come for a pravachana all the time thinking about the chapel. Will somebody wear the chapel and go? Whereas, I am not saying udasina. Don't, understand me the other way. I am not saying you conduct life with udasina. Take care, leave it at that. Don't jump up and down too much. Don't focus all your energy only on things which are anyway you are going to go one day. Why are you talking about this? Put a certain limit to it. Bring it to some realistic limits. The sense of entitlement, sense of attachment and agency must be put to a limit. And we have to draw the limit. If you don't draw a limit, that can be the major source of grief for me. So that's why the Namama is explaining that. So developing a sense of detachment over time is one of the fundamental principles. That's why Dana is there. Dana is given at the end of Yajna. At the end of every ritual in this country, Dana has to be given because that's the only way you can practice not mine. Your ability to give only will make us a little detached. That is why it was wired into every ritual that we do. Today we are saying this Purohit is taking too much money, cut it to us. We are looking at it as an economic problem. Because we are bringing these Western ideas which we are practicing in our office into our Hindu religion and our day-to-day living, our Samskriti, we want to bring all that and do some cost-benefit analysis and so on. The spirit is different here. The spirit is your ability to give will make you lighter. Again, unless we try it, and those who have tried it understand it and they will do it even more. And those who are not able to try it, they carry a very heavy load. So that is what Yajna is. So this idea of Yajna that you see in a Homa Kunda and all that is only symbolic. But the Yajna, the Yajna that Krishna is talking is much larger than this, and they are all governing this principle. So we'll see the next shloka where this will come so well. So the Yajna brings several concepts which we will see. It brings the idea of mutual dependence, it brings the idea of relationship between nature and man, it brings the idea of shunning away from selfish behavior. All those are part of Yajna which Sri Krishna is explaining through the shloka, because they are the ones which will make me a karma yogi. Otherwise the detached attachment is only a thought. Detached attachment must be practiced, for which you need a Yajna Bhava. Yajna Bhava to anything that we do. Look at this shloka. Saha yajna praja srishtva purovacha prajapatihi anena prasavishyadvam yeshavostvishta kamadhuk. He lays a very cardinal principle. Sri Krishna lays a very cardinal principle. What he says, when this world was created by Prajapati, he laid a governing principle. And what is the... So, Purovacha, long back told. Who told? Prajapati. Prajapati, when he created this Sakala Jiva Rashi, he went up and said, now let me tell you something. That's what it is saying. Purovacha Prajapati. When he created Prajaha, that's why he is a Prajapati. He is the Lord of creatures. when he created prajas, what he did? Saha yajnaha, yajnena saha. He said, I did not even create this Sakala Jiva Rashi. I also created a rule of a game called Yajna. I created a method of playing the game that is called Yajna. So Saha Yajnaha Prajaha Srishtva, having created this Sakala Jiva Rashi, along with that a golden rule of the game called Yajna, I laid that principle also. Having created, what did he say? He said, Anena, using the principle of Yajna. Anena is using this. And this is pointing to Yajna. Yajnena. Anena, use the principle of Yajna and go and milk your cow of desire. Ishta kama duk. Kama duk, which is the cow. Ishta kama duk. You, whatever you want to achieve in your desires, please achieve. But understand, this is the governing principle. Don't violate it. In other words, when you have to play football, you have to first put all the rules first. Only then you can play the game. You should specify the limits. You should specify the rules of the game, do's and don'ts. Then play the game. In the same way, to play the game of life, to do this vyavahara, to be in this vyavaharika plane, Prajapati said, I have defined a rule. Please, as long as you are not violating the rule, enjoy whatever you want to enjoy. So enjoy Madi, comma, as per Yajna rule. That comma and the rest part is gone now. Enjoy Madi, full stop agide alli. It is full stop. Enjoy Madi, full stop. He is saying, no, enjoy. He is saying, please enjoy. He says, prasavishyadvam, let all your impregnant desires be manifested out. Let it you give birth to all your desires. And go and milk the cow of desire. But how? Anena. Use the principle of Yajna, and using the principle of Yajna, you go and do it. So he lays a very grand concept. First, that's why he said, Yajnartat karma loko anyatra karma bandhana. That is what he said. He said, you must understand the principle of Yajna. Don't waste your time, otherwise you will never evolve in work. And that is what Prajapati said also. The Lord of creatures laid the rules of the game, and then you play the game, not violating the rules of the game, which is called Yajna. So which is what he says in this shloka. Now I want to tell something very interesting. See, there is a Rudra Prashna and Chamaka Prashna. Sri Rudra. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya, Om Namaste Rudramanya Uto Deshave Namaha. Like that, this Rudra is there. This Rudra is also called Namaka, because there are 300 Namaha. It's a Trishati, 300. It is the first Archana. Today we do Ashtotra, Sahasranama and all that. This is a Vedic Ashtotra, it's not Ashtotra, Trishati. There are exactly 300 Namaha in Rudra. It's a celebrated prayer, which is a Vedic prayer, called Rudra. It's called Rudra Prashna. Now the practice you will see, even today you will see, the practice has always been, after they say Rudra is the grand praise of this Lord Rudra. Rudra is one of embodiment of anger, one of embodiment of dissolving everything into nothingness and paving way for new things to come up and so on. So when Rudra is a very nice prayer and a grand exposition of the greatness of Rudra in 300 names, okay? Now what the practice is, after you have made this God, you have prayed the God and made this God so happy, that's the time you should ask for favors. My boss is there. Today is in a happy mood, I should ask what I want to ask. You should immediately ask, sir, give me this, give me this, give me that. And the propensity for us to get is a little higher. Same logic only we use also when we do this Parayan also. So we do Rudra first. And after Rudra, nobody stops. Immediately they do what is called Chamaka. It starts by Vajastame, Prasavastame, Didistame, Kritustame, Swarastame, Slokastame, Srishtistame, Swadastame, and all that it goes on. Sanchame, Mayastame, Priyanchame, Gamastame, Gamastame, Zaumanasastame. There are 12 paragraphs. I have been telling some of the youngsters, you people are all drawing useless wish list for life. If you really want to know what to ask, you have to read these 12 paragraphs. What we are asking today will pale in comparison. Nothing. You cannot ask anything any closer to those 12 paragraphs. May means for me, for me, for me. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. Sanchame, mayaschame. Give me sham. Sham means what? Good things. That's what it says. Sanchame, manaschame, like that it goes. First of all, it says Agna Vishnu Sajosha Sema Vardantu Angiraha Dumner Vaje Viragatum Vajaschame. First thing it asks is give me enough paddy. Kaneka. Paragraph themes are there. Adipatyanchame, give me the lordship of the world. I mean, we cannot ask anywhere near. Today's these modern youth have no idea. They are asking some cell phone, ill phone, and all of them will perish. Perishables they are asking. But in this, you have thematic. In one paragraph is only grains. Goduma astame, Masura astame, Priyangavaschame, Navaschame, Shyamaka astame, Nivara astame. One paragraph full of grains. Give me wheat, give me these, give me tur dal is 180 rupees today. Better let us ask. So thematic it is that. Why I am saying all that? After asking all kinds of things, this is the last paragraph. This is the last paragraph. Our ancestors said, give me all the riches, but give me I will do it in the spirit of yajna. Look at this mantra. It says, Ayur yajnena kalpatam, prano yajnena kalpatam, apano yajnena kalpatam, vyano yajnena kalpatam, chakshur yajnena kalpatam, gashotram yajnena kalpatam, mano yajnena kalpatam, vak yajnena kalpatam, atma yajnena kalpatam, yajno yajnena kalpatam. Even yajna I will do with the spirit of yajna. You give me all the riches, but I will follow the rule of yajna. That's how it ends. That's how this Chamaka Prashna ends. You ask the best things. In fact, I completely disagree with this idea that, if you are very spiritual, ancestors are very spiritual, they wanted nothing like that. Their kind of richness that they are asking, we are not able to ask. That is why we found some good knowledge also. Today we are a discounted lot, I am sorry to say. We are a discounted lot. We cannot think big. In Chandogya Upanishad it says, Nalpe Sukam Asti Bhuma Vai Sukam. The CEO of the country, called the king, goes to the sage, and the sage Pipalada, I think, then sage Pipalada says, Na alpe sukamasti, don't go after small things. Sage is telling to the CEO, Na alpe sukamasti, bhuma vai sukam. Go after big things in life. Our ancestors were like that. They asked riches. Who said they didn't ask riches? Yajnavalkya told to disciple, take all the 1,000 cows and go. Let me answer him later. I want all these cows. I want all these cows. Janaka threw a challenge. He said, whoever answers this will take these 1,000 cows and go. Yajnavalkya came in and said, told to one of his Shishya, take all the cows and go. Then the other learned person objected. Without answering the question, why are you taking? Yajnavalkya said, in any case I need the 1,000 cows. That's why I am taking. They were not found wanting in material richness, but they knew how to use it. That is called spirit of yajna. Which means the prosperity that we get through our work, the prosperity that we want to get through our work. I want promotion, I want salary, fine. When you pursue all of that, understand the principle of yajna and pursue in that. This is what Krishna is saying. You will become a karma yogi. This is the point he is coming to. Understand all that, and then you pursue, you will be in a much better position to do that. So the next slokas are saying, what does it mean? Devan bhavayata nena te deva bhavayantu vaha parasparam bhavayantaha shreya paramavapsyata. Krishna says, Paraspara Bhava is the only way you will reach ultimate of Shreyas. Param Shreyas Avapsyata. Arjuna, you understand one thing. Ultimate prosperity you will get in anything that you try in your life only when you honor the principle of mutual dependence. Paraspara Bhava is mutual dependence. right? Paraspara bhava is mutual dependence. He says, understand the value of mutual dependence. If you don't understand the value of mutual dependence, prosperity will fail you. Second sentence, parasparam bhavayantaha, those who believe in this paraspara bhava, those who work with the concept of paraspara bhava, sheyaha param sheyaha vapsyata, they will get into the pinnacle of prosperity. Sheyas, not prayers. Prayers is pleasant, which will, perishables. Prayers is perishables. Shreyas is not perishables. Life is perishable. Your position is perishable. Your ego is perishable. Your power is perishable. Your house is perishable. Food is perishable. He is not talking about perishable. All perishables are prayers. Shreyas is not perishable. This is permanent. The ultimate prosperity of that, if you want to achieve, please understand you have to value mutual dependence. And as an example, he uses this, why are we doing this yajna? He says, Devan bhavayata anena. The yajna that you do develops the right attitude for the devas. Te bhavayantaha. They are happy, they develop a certain attitude towards you. Te deva bhavayantuvaha. So in turn, they will do something for you. So, what is this deva? Now, this media sometimes puts a lot of trouble in us. Moment you say Deva, somebody with something rotating at the back, Surya, Chandra, Indra, all these are all fancily dressed up. So very, very, they look so grand. We also feel like putting on chakra, running behind a big kirida on us and all that. This is what we think as Deva. Actually, Devas are nothing but tags, a certain terminology for the Manushya Loka. For us, Devas are nothing but natural forces. Agni is a Deva, we are saying. Varuna is a Deva. Indra is a Deva. Surya is a Deva. What are they? They are the embodiments of Panchabhutas. We have given a name and brought them, and also Devan Bhavayata Anena means what it says is, if you practice yajna, then these natural forces without which you cannot live, which we are experiencing in a very bad way in Chennai now. Slightest disruption we do, we pay for it. The next cyclone is coming. They have now announced the next cyclone is on its way. In fact, I received a WhatsApp which says till January 18th it is going to destroy the city. Some 7-8 massive cyclones they are talking. So, Devan Bhavayata Anena means that our living, doing the Arghya, there was one Aptaryama Soma Yajna, which is, there are 7 types of Soma Yajnas. One is called Aptaryama Soma Yajna. After 220 years, in 2004, they did it in a place near Tirchur. 6 kilometers from Tirchur, a village called Mulangunathakkavu, in which they did. So I was there, a lot of seminars, all that happened. I also went, 4 days I was there, 10 days it happened. There is one family in Pune who knows how to do it. It's probably the last family. So they came and then did that. What amused me was, around that site, for about 500 meters, half a kilometer radius, all kinds of instruments, because they are going to test this shloka. They are trying to find out that if you do yajna, whether rain will come. So they put a lot of instruments, enormous amount of instruments. Then Nimhans people came and put a lot of instruments because they wanted to see how the behavior of people change. Because they are all told, not here. In our Vedic lore, in Brahmanas and thing, they have said many things that will happen when you do yajna. They came and tested. It was a pouring rain after 10 days. And all this testing happened. Then there was a seminar and all that happened. If you have faith, faith means proof is strictly unnecessary. You can do all these, waste $1 million and come to a conclusion that what they are saying is right. Or you could have taken a choice that is today if a film star says we actually agree. Vasishta says we don't agree. But on a New Year day, from 15-year-old come and do Ashirvad on the TV. And we are all, glued to the TV. And these 15-year, 17-year, 18-year come and tell some 2 sentences and do Ashirvad on all festival days. Credible people are not required on, private channels are like that. So we want to listen to them. Vasishta says who is this Vasishta? That's the level of ashraddhata we have. That's what he is talking about, that this Deva means forces of nature and we have to live with them. So that is called mutual dependence. Now, mutual dependence to me happens in several layers. If you take Vyavahara, in a company, boss and subordinate must have mutual dependence. Otherwise, he is a useless boss, I am telling you. Subordinates will find the fun of how this fellow, performs. Let me see the fun. That's what is happening for these immature leaders, immature bosses. They don't know that there is no power. Truly, there is no power. What is there is a certain position in which you have some endowment. Power and all is not there. People who think they have power, they have a long way to go to understand leadership. So, boss and subordinates, mutual dependence is required. Government and society, mutual dependence is required. When the Congress government forgot it for 10 years, one person sat with a white cap in Jantar Mantar, 1 million people ran up and down in this country and changed the government. Anna Hazare is not an ordinary person. Mahatma Gandhi, this British Empire, they said will never rise, sun will never rise, and said we made that sun will also set for some time. Government has a mutual dependence with civil society. It's another level. Man and nature, price we are paying. That's the next level of, that is the Devan Bhaveta Anena. Man and nature. These Agni, Indra, Varuna, Soma, Rudra and Surya are all forces of nature. Please understand. We have to have mutual dependence. Jiva Krishna is saying here. Understand, you will live only as long as nature chooses you to allow you to live. Because sometimes they ask me to give a talk and they say, Professor will talk about how to protect nature. Then I first get up and say that it is absolute foolishness to think protect nature. If possible, protect yourself. Nature does not require any helping hand from ordinary mortals like us. Thinking is flawed. What protecting nature? Just see what it is doing. It is just, there are 192 lakes around Chennai, all of them are full. So anytime all the lakes will be open now. 192 lakes. And there are about 940 lakes in the district of Chengalpattu and Kanchipuram, all of them are full. They have opened half a dozen lakes today. What are you going to protect nature? You protect yourself. If you have some wisdom, lead a life with the spirit of yajna, you can protect yourself. Living entities and non-living entities. You can mine endlessly the rock, you are mining your future. There is a limit to everything. Non-living entities don't take it for granted. All these, we have to understand when you say Paraspara Bhava. Paraspara Bhava is the grand principle with which you have to lead the life and engage in work. And they are all the spirit of Yajna. Yajna means Paraspara Bhava. In fact, our entire Vedic literature, if you see, our understanding of this mutual relationship between man and nature is highlighted like anything. There is one Shanti Sukta in Rigveda. Dev Shanti, and one of the title songs, this song used to go, Sword of Tipu Sultan or something. I remember 15 years back, 20 years back, the title song was this Sukta. Dev Shanti, Antariksham Shanti, Prithvi Shanti, Apaha Shanti, Oshadaya Shanti, Vanaspataya Shanti, Vishve Devaha Shanti, Brahma Shanti, Sarvam Shanti, Shantireva Shanti. We always said that Shanti is not for me. My Shanti is critically dependent on Shanti and everything around me. That is what this Suktam is saying. This Suktam is saying that the interspace must be peaceful. The outer space must be, Antariksha must be peaceful. Prithvi must be peaceful. Only then I will be peaceful. If Prithvi is not peaceful, I cannot be peaceful. Correct? Apashantihi, the water bodies must be peaceful. There is a fury of the water body going on now. Water bodies must have Shanti. Correct? Oshadeyaha Shantihi, the plant kingdom must, the herbs and all these domesticated plants. Vanaspateha, the forest system must be in Shanti. Only then I will be in Shanti. These are all physical systems. The first one are all terrestrial systems. The second bullet are all physical systems around us. Then these Vishve Devaha, this whole gamut of Devas, which are all larger physical forces. they must be in peace. Only then I will be in peace. This is the prayer our ancestors made. Brahma Shantihi, this creator, the Lord of the creatures, he or she should be in Shanti. Right? Sarvam Shantihi. Let everything be in peace. Only the concept of Shanti must be in Shanti. To that extent they are emphasizing. The notion of Shanti must also be in Shanti. So this is the power of mutual dependence. This is the power of mutual dependence that our ancient Indian wisdom thought about. And that came out of spirit of Yajna. Yajna alone can make one to do this. That's why there are so many suktas. Surya Sukta, Bhumi Sukta, Agni Sukta, Ratri Sukta, Ushas. There is a Sukta for twilight, dawn. There is a Kala Sukta. There is a Oshadhi Sukta. There is a Sukta. There is a prayer for this. See, we believe that we have to live in, harmony with everything. Pray for it. Don't use modern science and laugh at it. That's why in this country, if there is a river, we pray. If there is a meeting point of two rivers, that is holy for us. The entire, plant kingdom is holy for us. Chapter 10 specializes only that in Bhagavad Gita. Stavaranam Himalaya, Masanam Margasishoshmi. All that he says, we worship animals, we worship insects, we worship living entities, we worship non-living, and don't laugh at it. It's a deep principle. You worship non-living entities. Unless you develop reverence, you are bound to illiterate. If you only develop reverence, you will treat things properly. The idea Naga Panchami, people are laughing. No. You take out the snakes. Finished. You will be finished because the whole food cycle will get disturbed. That is being communicated through Naga Panchami. Everything is worshipped in this country. As Swami Dayananda Saraswati says, some foreigner asked him, we have one God, you seem to have 33 million God or something. He said, no, we have only God, nothing else. So beautifully he said, you have one God, we have only God. Sarvam Vishnumayam Jagat. We have only God. That's the answer he gave. So why? Only when you develop that kind of a perspective, you will be able to peacefully live. I think on this note we should stop here. Today's talk we will stop at 7:58 or something it should be. So yes, 7:58. We'll chant the Shanti Mantra and stop here. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Shri Guru Charana Arvindarpanamastu. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.